Thank you very much, Scott, and thank you very much to Austin Liti Limits for inviting me to this. This is truly a thrill and an honor, being relatively new to the city. I came here from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and everybody points out that they can still hear my accent, and I do believe it was this gentleman back here, Ray Rhymes, that wants to know when I'm actually getting rid of that accent, but I digress. I do have 3 novels. My first one was written in 2015. It's called The Angel's Curse. I continued my series, The Angel's Lounge was the first one. I continued my series with The Angel's Curse and The Angel's Revenge. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a passage for as long as I'm permitted up on stage. I will start with The Angel's Curse. I will avoid reading the particularly risque portions if you really want to be offended. I do have my books for sale right back there. Just come and I will autograph them for you. Now, just a little bit of background. My protagonists, I've always been a huge fan of music, which is what brought me to Austin in the first place. My protagonists, the majority of my characters are all musicians. They are very international people, having come mostly from from Scotland. Some of them from Austin. From Scotland, rags to riches stories, finding very unique and dangerous things out about their families. As they progress along, my books are not only a progression of the characters, but also their activities around the globe together, which I have written from my own experience, having lived in Europe for a few years and having traveled abroad extensively. So this is, again, the second book, The Angel's Curse. The cold rain fell dark on the Scotland Christmas morning. Insomnia having gotten the best of the guys, they were shredded from the lack of sleep. Robbie arose to find Breck on the front stoop in the drizzling morning with a cigarette and a bottle of Bushmills for breakfast. From the counter, Robbie collected his own pack of cigarettes and a glass of his own and joined the defeated heap of a man on the wet cement step. Pour, he demanded, and down the shot. He pulled a silver lighter from his pocket, ignited the flame to torch the tobacco. Robbie supplicated his mate's vindication. "Please forgive me, my brother," he sobbed. "I couldn't save her." Startled by the invocation, Breck consoled his mate. "Jesus, Robbie, I sure as hell don't blame you for any of this. You're the one who kept her safe, and it's you who said a dozen times that these are my kids. If they don't want to be stopped, they're not going to be, just like their old man. You couldn't have stopped her or Dan any more than you could have stopped me at that age, or that you could stop me now. Christ, we all feel like mortal shit. There's nothing any of us can do." Robbie wagged his head. "You don't understand. This isn't finished. Greer wasn't the only one we were after. He was just the only one that we found." Breck was numb, unable to bring his ferocity to the surface. He just bided time while the next brick would fall on him, and he'd tend to the bruise that it was left when it hit. "I know timing couldn't be worse to tell you this, but Greer wasn't the mastermind he was thought to be. There was someone more powerful behind him," Robbie explained. Breck's face stayed empty and unchanging, the burning paper crackling with his inhalation. "Greer was bad enough, Robbie. The only way this entire nightmare would be even remotely sensible is if the next words out of your mouth are that the devil himself approached you, and he extinguished fire at the end of his pitchfork before he stuck it straight up your ass." Robbie tilted his head and lifted an eyebrow. "What if I told you he had?" "Very, very funny, smartass. Can you wait for another day? Because I just really need to focus on Elena's father, Breck." Robbie came clean. "Jack Simmons was working with Greer. He's the one that called the shots to have the kids wiped out 2 decades ago." Breck turned his gaze to Robbie, now busying himself dumping more Bushmills into the empty glasses. "You're out of your fucking mind," Breck argued. "I mean, I don't know the guy, never did, and I can only imagine that he was a little peeved at the fact that I took off with his daughter. But to do that to his own kid, his own grandchildren?" "Yours did, laddie," Robbie pointed out. "It's not out of the realm of possibility for a guy who's got clout and political ambitions to the extent that he does. People have died for less, you know. She'll be there today. He was positive she'd show. My left nut, and you know that I'm right. Hell and high water wouldn't keep her from her own daughter's..." "What? Keep her from what, Rob? Funeral?" "They sure as fuck kept her from her life." Breck could feel the whiskey tracing its way back out of his gullet. The whole thing made him sick. "I can't listen to this right now. I have to get ready." Breck rallied his waning strength and stumbled up the stairs, staggered with Robbie's revelation that his father-in-law kidnapped his own grandchildren and adopted them out to ignorant would-be parents while duping them for every dime he could squeeze. Did Elena know? Was she in on it with him? Thoughts that he would have happily put in the ground as a substitution for his own child's body, ideas he couldn't wallow in as he dressed for his daughter's funeral. I have to bury her first, then I'll bury the rest. Barely capable of adding the finishing touches to his favored kilted suit, he threw over his arm his priceless medieval cloak, in which he'd wrap his child on her way to make her maker. From his coat pocket he drew the Pope's black marble rosary that would adorn her delicate fingers at rest. Returning to the sitting room, he met Robbie, the sight of whom froze him dead in his tracks. As posh as Breck had ever seen the man, Robbie waited in immeasurable, painful silence, smartly donning his very own, and rarely seen, plaid tartan in the pattern of the McGuins. And let's just get this over with. They sulked as his son Dan led the pack, hobbling out the front door under the cold of the gloom and directly into the car. "Your shotgun," Breck cursed Robbie, bucking to incite an argument and praying for playful banter. He ached for anything that would fill the gaping hole in his chest where his heart had once beat. And Robbie came through in fine form. "You fucking drive like a maniac. You wait to start the engine till my belt's on you, daft bastard." Maybe that wasn't what he needed right at the moment. Jocular and appreciated as it was, awoke in him the stark reality that he was unable to laugh and breathe and feel. But his dead daughter wasn't blessed with the same capability. He'd gladly given his miserable life for the long and undoubtedly decent one that she would have had before her, a thought that jarred loose the keys and he fumbled to retrieve them, his sight impeded through watered vision. Thank you very much.